Today we are reviewing percents, fractions, and decimals. So we learned about converting between these three things last class, and so now we're just going to review again, and then we're going to do an activity afterwards. So you can see up here that there's some hints, okay, that you can use if you need to. As you work on the activity later in the class, make sure you refer back to this, okay? It will help you, I promise. Okay? So the first thing it gives us is a percent. So we're at 9%. Let's change that to a decimal. So remember, when you need to change a percent to a decimal, you move your decimal twice to the left, because that's the same thing as dividing by 100. So up here, we could put move decimal left 2 times. Okay, so this tells you exactly how to get from a percent to a decimal if you need to. Okay, and up here, if we're going from a decimal to a percent, it says multiply by 100, which is the same as moving your decimal right 2 times. Okay, so I want you to write those 2 tips for you so that you can use them later on. Okay. So to go from a percent to a decimal, it says move decimal left 2 times. So I'm at 9%, so my decimal's right there, and I'm going to move it twice to the left, and I would add a 0. So that would mean my decimal is 0.09. All I did was move my decimal twice to the left. So then to change a percent to a fraction, okay, it says put it over 100 to go from a percent to a fraction. Okay. So that means our percent, if it's 9%, that's going to be 9 over 100, because a percent is always on top of 100. And then I have to decide if it can be simplified or not. So is there a common number that I can divide 9 and 100 by? No, there's not. So that means 9 over 100 is my final answer. So that means 9 over 100, 9%, and 0.09 are all the same thing. They equal the same thing. Okay. So next, now we're going from a fraction to a percent. So remember, our percent is always over 100. So I need to get my fraction to 100. Okay. So I have to decide, how do I go from 20 to 100? I multiply by 5, because 20 times 5 is 100. And whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So I have to do 3 times 20 on the top. And I get 60. So my percent is 60%. So then to change from a percent to a decimal, look up here. And to go from a percent to a decimal, you move the decimal left 2 times. So it would go 1, 2. And so it would be 0.60 or 0.6, whatever you want to do, or 0.6. We don't necessarily need that extra 0, but you can have it if it makes more sense to you that way. So 3 over 20, 60%, and 0.6 all equal the same thing. So now I have 0.07. So I'm going from a decimal to a percent. So if I go up here, to go from a decimal to a percent, I move my decimal right 2 times. So I would go 1, 2, and I would be at 7%. And when I move it twice. And then to change it from a percent to a fraction, remember, a percent is always on top of what? 100. So it'd be 7 over 100. And I have to see, can I simplify that? No, I cannot. It's already simplified, so that's my final answer. On this one, I know it's going to be a little bit different because my percent is above 100. Okay, I'm still going to do it the same way, but my fraction is going to end up being a mixed number. All right? So to change it from a percent to a decimal, I look up here, and to go from percent to a decimal, I move the decimal left 2 times. So I would go 1, 2. So my decimal is 1.2. 0.2 or 1.20. Okay. And then my fraction, my percent is going to go over 100 no matter what on these. Okay. So that would start by 120 over 100. Now this one I can simplify. Okay. And I need to change it to a mixed number. So I always change it to a mixed number first because I think it's easier that way, but it's up to you. So I need to divide. So I know 100 goes into 120 one time. So my whole number is 1. And I have 20 left over, and my denominator stays the same. So 1 and 20 over 100. And then I have to decide what can I divide 20 and 100 by. There are lots of things that I can divide them by. I can divide them by 2, 4, 5, 10, 20. I'm going to pick the biggest one that comes to mind, and I'm going to divide both by 20 so that I don't have to do it again. So I have 1 is my whole number still, and then 20 divided by 20 is 1, and 100 divided by 20 is 5. So I get 1 and 1/5. So 1 and 1/5, 120%, and 1.2 are all the same thing. On 2 and 1/4, so the first thing I'm going to do is change it to an improper fraction so that I can get the denominator to 100, okay? So this 2 right here, that's going to represent 200%. So I know it's going to be above 200%. Okay? So I'm going to change it to an improper fraction. So we have 4 times 2, and then we add 1. So 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So we get 9 over 4. I'm going to write that better. 9 over 4. And to get to a percent, we have to get our denominator to 100. Okay. How do we go from 4 to 100? What do we multiply by? We multiply by 25. Whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So we do 9 times 25. If you don't know that off the top of your head, then multiply over on the side. 5 times 9 is 45. 9 times 2 is 18. Plus 4 is 22. So we get 225. So 225 is our percent. Okay? Which makes sense because 1/4 is 25%, and our 2 represents the 200. So it should be 225%. So then to change our percent to a decimal, you can go back up here, and we're going to move the decimal left 2 times. So I would start here, I go 1, 2, so it'd be 2.25. Right. Whoops. Okay. Last one. I want you to pause the video, try it on your own, and then fast forward to see if you got the same answer as me. Okay. So to go from a decimal to a percent, go up here, and it says move your decimal right 2 times. So it starts here, and I go 1, 2. So it would be 32%. So percents and decimals, those are the easiest things because you just have to remember to move the decimal twice, and you have to remember if it's left or right, but you can use the key at the top to help. The most difficult part is going to be the fraction. That's what students most struggle with, and you just have to remember to simplify. So to change 32% to a fraction, it has to start over 100, so 32 over 100, and then we simplify. So what can we divide 32 and 100 by? On a lot of these, I like to think small, so I know that they're both even numbers, so I can divide them both by 2. So 32 divided by 2, 100 divided by 2. 32 divided by 2 is 16, 100 divided by 2 is 50. And then they are both still even numbers, so I can still divide them both by 2. So I'm going to divide by 2 again. And 16 divided by 2 is 8, and 50 divided by 2 is 25. So 8 over 25, 32%, and 0.32 are the same thing. They equal the same thing. Email me if you guys have questions. Use this page when you do the activity and the iExcel if you get to it.